Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Film Room Podcast. Here's your host, Joe Baris. It's kind of a bonus episode here. I'm joined by my friend, former AAU teammate, Mike Dargatis, a Abington Heights grad, former football, basketball player at Abington Heights, and now he's an actor living in LA. So, Mike, how's it going, man?
What's up, buddy? Glad to be here.
Absolutely. It's like I said, we were talking before this, and we played AAU basketball together, and I think the last time we actually spoke was probably like, I don't know, 17, 18 years ago, our last high school basketball game.
I would say, yeah, when we played each other.
Against each other. Yeah, and we're going to get to the box score on that, by the way.
I don't remember how we played.
Yeah, I looked it up and everything, so we'll get there. But obviously, I named this podcast the Film Room Podcast because it's a combination of sports and movies, two things that I'm involved with, and obviously, things that you're obviously heavily involved with now. And you were a standout in the high school sports in the area. So what we're going to do, let's just start with this. Obviously you're a big sports guy, but just tell us, like, how did you get into football and basketball when you were growing up? What kind of sparked your interest in the sports?
Yeah, my dad definitely really pushed me growing up to get into it. And he was always my coach. So whenever I had, junior Comets and, Pee Wee football and that stuff, and I played at Holy Cross, if you remember that.
Yeah.
It was like the little league over there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So he was my coach there too. So, he was always heavily involved and coached me and kind of pushed me to keep doing that. And then my uncles, I don't know if you're familiar with the Rebars, but they were pretty prominent athletes back in the day at Mid-Valley. They're my mom's brothers. So like Chad, who played football at Wake Forest, and Dave, who coached for a while. And, but he was a fantastic player at Syracuse. And my uncles, Willie and John, they played at Kutztown. So, growing up, I always looked up to them and always tried to emulate them. They were always the big bruisers. So I didn't get their size, unfortunately. But, yeah, they always kind of, pushed me to be, really active in sports and always coached me as well. So it was, since I was like, 5 years old, I started putting all my kind of time and energy into sports.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we crossed paths playing AAU at Hoop City.
Hoop City.
Yeah, which was, it ended up being a great time, like just the people we played with and everything. It was a great time traveling too.
No, it was the best.
Wasn't it the best? I mean, yeah. What do you kind of remember about that time in AAU and, what it meant to your basketball career?
Yeah, it was always interesting going, getting outside of our area.
Yeah.
And, you show up to these tournaments in, Philly and Maryland and all these other places, and you realize like how good some of these kids are.
Yeah.
And I was always like, I remember we played Theo Ratliff's team. I don't know if you remember, he played for the Sixers on the Allen Iverson teams.
Oh yeah.
And it was like his team. So like his kids, and they were it was a whole nother level. So when we got there, we were like, oh man, we're in trouble.
Exactly.
But we had some good kids on our team. We had some great players who ended up, having really good careers. And
seriously,
but a lot of those kids were there was like, 6, 8 kids in 6th grade, so it was like, it was always a culture shock just seeing a dunk, and like 7th graders dunking and stuff. So
I remember I used to just think to myself, like, just don't get posterized.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was, like we'd be on the bench, like kind of like there'd be a dunk and you'd kind of go like, ooh, and then realize like it's the other team and like, You gotta shut up.
Well, you were more of like a forward. You were like a post guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were younger.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I was an undersized forward. Yeah. I loved banging down there,
Yeah.
Like, it was great. It's funny. I doubt you remember this, but there was one time in practice, we were running some sort of drill and, you you found me like wide open, like for a layup. And I catch the ball and immediately like twist my ankle and fall down.
Oh, no. I don't remember that.
I'm glad you don't remember it. I shouldn't have even brought it up, but,
Oh, no.
but, we obviously played for, the late John Bucci, obviously a legend in the area. And, I'll kind of just start off here. And like, I guess what I appreciated about him the most was that, he would always take the positive and the negative. My favorite story that dealt with me is that like there was one game where, the other team scored. I took the ball out of bounds and like hairlessly threw it right back to the other team for like a layup. And Bucci calls timeout and I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. He's gonna kill me. And he just like stared at me and he was just like, that is ridiculous, Joe. But in the same game, it's funny you bring up Allen Iverson, and I made a layup against the guy and actually stepped over him like Allen Iverson did. Tyrone Lue.
Against the Lakers.
Yes. And he takes me out of the game and he's just like, were you taunting that kid? I'm like, yeah. And it's funny because he's smiling. He loved it. So it was just like, he always took the positives and the negatives. He would praise you and he would, be upset with you when you did something wrong. I think he'd hold you accountable, and I appreciated that. But I guess for you, what was it like playing for, obviously an area legend coach in John Bucci?
Yeah, he had such a way of dealing with each player and in their own individual way. But he just could coach the hell out of anybody. He was the best of the best, and like you said, he would get fired up. He kind of had that, like you would get a little scared, like you think he'd yell at you, but it was never disrespectful. It was always that he cared,
Right.
It was like pushing you to be better and, that he believed in you. So it was always like, I think that's something that, a lot of kids need, you can't be coddled, your whole life. You gotta, realize, they might yell you a little bit, but it's tough love.
Right. Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, he always he cared about all of us and our careers. And as we all went on to, once you get older, we all go to our different high schools and, we grow up, and he always checked in. And I mean, he was heavily involved in the area as well back then.
Yeah.
More of like an announcer, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. You're right. Yeah.
So yeah, he was one of one.
Absolutely. So moving on to your basketball career, obviously, that's where I knew you. We'll get to your football career, but you end up, you play basketball for Abington Heights, win a District 2 Class 4A title when there were only 4 classifications at the time. And, it's your senior year, you played with who ended up being the Times-Tribune Player of the Year, Spencer Liddick. Obviously played with us on AAU. EJ Murphy, love EJ.
Yeah, sharpshooter.
Yeah. Haven't talked to him in a while, but love EJ. Curtis Medeiros and a guy named Corey Spangenberg. Ends up being a professional.
Pretty good athlete.
But yeah, pretty good. So I mean, what an incredible team. Like, what was it like playing for that team at Abington Heights?
Man, that was and you can't forget sophomore Ross Danzig.
Yeah,
I think he went on to win. Maybe did he win Player of the Year?
I think he might have, and then had a great career at the University of Scranton too.
Yeah, he was very good too. Coach Bianchi and Coach McLean, like they were such good coaches.
Yeah,
and they really were good. They were good at getting everyone to accept a role on the team, and obviously Spence was phenomenal.
Yeah.
We didn't have any 7-foot kids like that for some reason Abington seems to have all the time now.
Yeah.
We never had that. But yeah, we were just a really good unit, like everyone kind of took a step back, and, growing up, we were all, kind of the standouts whenever we would have our own teams. And, Coach Bianchi and Coach McLean did a really good job of, accept your role. And like, I used to shoot a lot growing up, but, and then as a senior, obviously Spence, the offense ran through him. And so we all kind of accepted our role. I was more of a defender and a facilitator. And if you need me to score, I could score here and there. But yeah, the team, but everyone just kind of put their own personal goals aside just for the team's success. And I know we struggled in the beginning of the year. I remember we were not playing well, and everyone kind of predicted us to be, the top team in the area.
Right.
Us, you guys, and prep, I think were like the top three.
Yep.
And there was a moment where everyone was kind of like, kind of doubting ourselves, and the coaching staff kind of set us down, and we went on an extremely hot streak, and I don't think we lost for like months at a time. And then, so yeah, that was some of the best times of my life playing on that team. That was a great team.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned it a little bit. Obviously, I never played for Ken Bianchi, but Ken Bianchi is one of the best coaches, in high school coaches in the state, just great career. I think he retired 2 years ago, but, I don't know. What was it about Ken Bianchi that made him such a successful coach?
I think it was kind of like what I said with Coach Bucci. It was more of, he had that, if he yelled at you, he's going to hold you accountable. But it was also when you did something well, he's gonna praise you. It was, so you're always kind of on edge, like you gotta do your job, or it's next man up,
Right.
And yeah, him and McLean just did such a good job of running that program, and for many, many years. And yeah, it was such an honor to play for them. And like I said, I always look back on those times. And I actually played I went back a couple of years. That's probably like 10 years ago now, actually. But I played in like the alumni game, and it was fun.
Oh, nice.
There. And I think, yeah, it's just there's so many good memories playing at Abington Heights, like the high school gym and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, like I mentioned, our last meetup, Holy Cross versus Abington Heights. You guys won 55-49. It's funny. I look back. I actually thought we lost by more. So 6 points wasn't.
Close,
yeah, exactly. 6 points wasn't so bad. But yeah, let's go into the box score.
Oh God!
Listen, we've got Dargatis, 5 points. Hey, see,
like I said, I accept my role.
Exactly. I was gonna say you probably had like 12 assists.
I was always taking charges. That was Nathan and McLean. Always they would reward you extra in practice. The next day you get like a star.
Oh, really?
You take a charge. So that was always my kind of thing. I feel like that was your thing too. You were always kind of big into that when we were growing up.
Yeah. That's really. You're right. That's what I wanted to do. Just kind of bang down there, and it'll make my stat line look a lot better that you mentioned it. My stat line 0, 0, 0, 0. So I entered the game.
Okay.
I was in the game. So
it wasn't mop up minutes.
Yeah. See, so comparing our stats here, you get the win for that one.
Okay, I'll take it.
You've got to.
Yeah, well, you guys had a great team. I mean, you had a lot of kids from the AU days ended up on Holy Cross. You guys had some of the best kids in the area.
Exactly. I mean, obviously Nico Frascione was great.
Yeah.
Brett Podolsky, he was so good. He just had injuries. I always felt bad for him because he was a ridiculously good player. Obviously Lou Cipriano.
Yeah, Lou. We used to train together.
Yep. There you go. Mark Bavacqua. Joe Gibbons, one of my favorite teammates ever. Yep, great guy.
He's coach now, right?
Yeah. He's actually, I believe he's an assistant with Keystone right now. He was Mountain View's coach.
Yeah.
So that was obviously a blast, to play with that team as well. But let's move on to your football career, something that I actually, I knew that you did, but wasn't entirely familiar with. Being a quarterback is obviously one of the most difficult positions, if not the most difficult position in football. And like you said, you were kind of, you weren't as tall, so coming from that quarterback position, what was it like playing quarterback at Abington Heights?
Yeah, it was a long time preparing just for, 1 year to start.
Yeah.
Because I think things are a little different now, but I mean, when I was there, we had like 70 plus kids that wanted to be on the team. So every year, most kids, you only start a year there. And, from my freshman year on, we had Jeremy Jane to Dave Kiesling to me, then Pat Griffin after me. So 4 kids, Jane went to Townsend, I believe. Townsend, he played there. Kiesling played at Penn State. I went to Clarion.
Yep.
Griffin played at Ithaca. So like we were just churning out, college level quarterbacks. So it was always, a lot of pressure to kind of win that starting job. And, from being a kid on, it was always preparing for that, kind of 1 to 2 years you get to start and prove yourself and kind of, show everybody what you're made of. So it was, it was a lot of pressure, but also, being a quarterback, you got to kind of lead a group of men, which is very good in life. And you kind of learn how to, command a room and orchestrate an offense, which I think in a weird way, it kind of helps you in life and kind of, deal with different things you encounter. So it was, and in the pit, which I think is not even, are they getting rid of the pit?
They got a really nice new football field. I believe, and I should know this, I believe they do still play a couple games at the pit. So it's not dead yet, I don't think.
Man, but some games there were crazy.
Yeah.
And, I would always look forward to, and I lived right there. So we used to, me, Vinny Armetta and Charlie Armetta, we would walk down there and kind of warm up on the field beforehand with the, the groundskeepers getting the grass ready. And Saturday afternoons there were just, it was kind of like a college atmosphere. We had thousands and thousands of people. So it was, that's another thing I look back on, like some of the best times of my life.
Absolutely. And, you actually, you got our Athlete of the Week award. And let's see, when was this? It was in October 2007.
Long time ago.
But not to, I didn't bring you on here to embarrass you, but I want to look at this Athlete of the Week interview here. And
it was terrible.
I didn't think it was that bad. I think it held up pretty well, actually.
So I had no idea that I won. So I didn't really get to prepare anything. It was, and it's obviously I was in high school. I remember thinking after I could have done better on that one.
No, it's not bad. So you end up, you get the award. You threw for 3 touchdowns in a 24-0 win over Wallapapack. You had 254 yards, completed 15 of 21 attempts in the victory.
Pretty efficient there.
Exactly. That's great numbers, my friend. Great numbers.
Shout out to Kurt Medeiros and Matt Lee. They're my two wideouts that had great years.
Yeah, absolutely. So, athletes you admire, LeBron James. That's a good one.
Yeah. Still LeBron.
Still going.
That's actually great.
Seriously, it's insane. And Tim Tebow as well. This part was a little unsettling as a Packers fan. I've forgotten this. Are you still a Vikings fan?
Growing up, I chose the Vikings because everybody, roots for the Eagles or the Steelers. And I kind of just was like, I want to be a little different. And I always admired Randall Cunningham.
Yeah.
Played for the Eagles. And on the Vikings, I was just like, I wanted to play like him. And then to Dante Culpepper, who I also, I love those guys. So I kind of just stuck with them. But in LA now, I kind of root for the Rams and the Chargers.
Yeah.
But, obviously I want the Steelers and the Eagles, to do well, my Pennsylvania roots. But my heart is still, a Vikings fan.
Absolutely. I hear you. Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah. Hey, I respect the tackle.
So the one thing in this interview that I thought was funny and also kind of cool at the same time, do you remember what you said your favorite movie was?
Favorite movie? Probably, I think it was 300.
I was going to say, 300. You nailed it. I was just about to say, think of the time and 300.
Because I think I had just seen it.
Yeah.
And obviously it was going crazy at that time.
It was a massive movie. Exactly.
Yeah.
It was, honestly, I've always liked Zack Snyder. I think he's had some misses along the way, but I adore some of his movies. I love Watchmen.
Yeah, Watchmen is fantastic.
I just love it. And what's so cool about that, and we'll get to it, but you ended up being an extra in Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
A Zack Snyder movie. Yeah, right. So it's just crazy how that kind of comes full circle. So also what I kind of look back on, kind of fondly, I think is really cool is that both of us, played against such great athletes who went on to, have either great college and or professional careers. I mean, obviously we mentioned Corey Spangenberg. When I was looking up, it's funny, I was just doing some research and I'm just like, let me see what Mike's stats, like football stats were and where he kind of ranked. And it was just like the guy above you was Matt McGloin. And it's just like, well, how are you supposed to, how are you supposed to compete with that? Me personally, obviously we mentioned Nico Frashoni. He ended up going to Arizona State, I think playing a year there alongside a guy named James Harden.
Yeah, I think they're roommates, right?
Yeah, they're exactly. You were absolutely right. Yeah, they ended up being roommates. People like Eric Schreiber ended up having a great Penn State career. Hubie Graham. I'm naming West people because obviously at Bishop Hannon we didn't have a football team until we were Holy Cross. So like I kind of followed West because I was from West. But I don't know, how cool is it to kind of look back on the era that you played in and just how great the athletes were at the time?
Yeah, it was, there were so many good players.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because we all grew up together. And, it's funny. So me, Matt McGloin, Nico, and John Fry, I think he played at Holy Cross, right? Yeah, he was there. And we were kids. We were all on the same 3-on-3 team. And they did this tournament up at Montage Mountain. I don't even know if they still do that. But we won the 3-on-3 tournament. And I remember we saw this picture. It's like us as little kids holding the trophy up. So it was like, it's just funny seeing how everyone kind of played out. And yeah. But yeah, that West Side team was fantastic. I'm not sure if you're familiar with our game when we played them my senior year, but it was like pretty, pretty epic, not for me, more so for them, but so Greg Schiano, who was the head coach at Rutgers at the time, he landed his helicopter on West baseball field for that game. God. So it was like, we're hearing all this chatter, like he's there to see, watch the game, the first half, I think.
Sure.
But like it was just a back and forth battle and playing against Matt and Hubie and Shrive. And they had Botman, who I think was a year younger, but he was a Division I kid and they were just loaded. And we went back and forth. I threw a go-ahead touchdown, I think, with like 2 minutes left. They go and score in a minute. They go back up, and then we drive down. Last play of the game, Shrive and Hubie like disrupt the rollout. I have to roll back. I dive for the end zone. I fumble.
No.
Lose the game.
No.
And something I look back on, I still get busted by my buddies all the time. But that was like, and they won. It was heartbreaking. It was awful.
That's brutal. Okay, so that was the fumble game that you spoke of. Oh, that's terrible. I'm sorry to make you relive that.
No, my buddies make fun of me all the time. But yeah, and I remember the Times interviewed me after, and it was like a big controversy because I put the ball down with my hand, like, and used it as kind of like to keep me up when I was, dodging Shrive. And everyone was like, was that a fumble? Was that dead play? Like, it was like a big, like, there were people writing in about it. Like, is that considered like asking about the rules and stuff like that? But, and people thought I fumbled on purpose, which I definitely did not.
Why would Jesus?
Because I was short of the end zone.
So okay. Yes.
Because if we recovered it.
Got it.
I was not thinking that far ahead.
Yeah. You had Eric Schreiber coming after you. I don't think you were thinking.
Hubie was, he was, we used to train together too. So he played in the NFL for a little bit too.
Yeah. Yep. So.
And then, obviously Corey, I mean, one of the best athletes I've ever seen in person. He was, and we still stay in touch to this day. Really good friend of mine. And actually, before I moved to Los Angeles, I went to see him play at Dodger Stadium. So we were just visiting, and we got to see him play. And I had a Spangenberg kind of Padres shirt on, and I was like yelling to him. He's pointing at me. I had the whole stadium booing me, and so I get there a little late, but he hit a home run while I was in the elevator coming down. And I missed it.
Oh no!
And he was never like a power hitter. So
right?
Like, oh God.
And
I'm just gonna say I saw it, but then he hit another one. I think it was like his only one of two multi-home run games. So it was just like an insane story. I always tell people that story, and
that's awesome.
Got to go on the field with him after and stuff. So that was one of my coolest sports experiences. Yeah, he was a heck of a player.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. That's a great story. Geez, he should have invited you to every game.
I know. I told her that.
He would have averaged like 300 some home runs.
I know. Yeah. But yeah,
Uh,
that was crazy.
it's
I had the whole
awesome.
stadium booing me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was wondering how that went for you. And that
Yeah,
was,
it's only Padres.
yeah, worth it though, worth it.
Yeah.
So, obviously the thing that I always find interesting is that obviously, in the moment, everyone takes, high school sports so seriously in the moment, like it's life or death, but
Hmm.
obviously like only a select few end up making it to the professional level. Many make it to the collegiate level at whatever division, but sports are so important, even if you don't, even if you just finish at a high school level and you're done. I mean, but what did you take away from your time in sports in the area that kind of helped you become who you are?
Yeah, I think sports are extremely important in terms of just, you know, hard work and learning like, you're going towards something bigger than yourself
Yeah.
and especially in team sports, you got to work with others towards a common goal and you got to sacrifice here and there and you got to put a lot of time in. It's not easy. I remember as a kid, I wanted to, quit sports when I was 6 years
Yeah.
old. I hated football because, I was like a lineman. You have these pads on that don't even fit you and you're getting hit. You're like, "Ah, I don't want to do it." My dad's like, you're not quitting. And it teaches
Yeah.
you, how to persevere and, life gets hard and it doesn't get any easier as you get older.
Right.
And, it kind of teaches you how to, deal with adversity and just keep going, which I think is hugely important. And yeah, so sports back home, I mean, it was great. It was, just dealing with how many great coaches and players we had in our area. It was, and they really kind of drove that home too, because they knew, a lot of kids aren't going to go pro.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and they kind of taught those life lessons throughout. So it was good to learn that and kind of put that towards life later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And, on that same token, sometimes, we'll ask seniors in the area, just, what would you pass down to the younger kids? And, obviously, you know, we're talking about here and you kind of touched on it. You talked about, perseverance, and obviously that has helped you later in life. We'll get to that. But, is there anything else that you would pass down to athletes today?
Man, probably just, don't quit. You just got to keep
Yeah.
going. And when it gets hard, just, keep pushing yourself, push yourself to your limits. And I promise it'll pay off later in life when things get tough, whether it's, at your job or a relationship or anything, you can apply that to anything in life. So just, and if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability. Don't, you know, go at it and kind of just not give it your full effort. If you're going to do it, give it 100%, no matter what it is. And I think that'll help you in life with whatever it is.
Certainly. And, it's Abington is coming off a great sports year. Obviously they're always expected to be a top tier program, but across the board, they just had a great year. Are you just curious, being out in LA, do you get to check in on Abington Heights sports at all, or sports in the area?
There was a time where I really did it for a couple years, and then I've kind of gotten back into it and really. So my one of my best friends, Scotty Obelinas, he's the coach over at Abington now, and shout out Coach Scott. He's got the boys ready to play this year. So it's Repchus is still there, and
Yeah.
Just Dave and Coach Holly and all those guys, and I mean they've been there almost Just Dave longer, but
Yeah.
Rep's coming up on 20 years, right?
Yep. Exactly.
And those guys are fantastic, and over the years, whenever I, check in or go to a game or something, I'm always welcome back with open arms. And so I always kind of keep an eye on it. And I'm always rooting for Adams. I'm a Comet forever. Comets never burn out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. I still think about, rivalries with high school football teams, like, I'm sorry, high school basketball teams, like, Old Forge, and I still think
Were they your rival?
Old Forge was our big
They were
rival.
good too. They had a good team when we were there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Steve Semenza.
Semenza, yeah, his
Yeah,
dad was the coach, right? He was
yep,
good.
yep. He was great. He would kill us. So, but hey, let's kind of transition to, so you end up at Clarion to play football. You move on to Wilkes, get a degree in communication studies. Obviously you're an actor now, but it's always a tough transition to go from high school. I was lucky enough to go to college for what I ended up in now. But
Yeah.
while you were in college, what was the career that you were looking for, like, at the time?
To be honest, when I first got to Clarion, I really didn't know. I was undecided in
Yeah.
business.
Okay.
It was just more so like, I was, kid. I was more so concerned, like, yeah, it's football. Let's go. I'm ready
Yeah.
to play at the college level. I got to learn a whole new offense. I got to, and so, and then obviously my grades slipped a little bit. I wasn't prepared. And then that was a big, growing up moment as well.
Yeah.
Once I got to Clarion and, learning how to manage my time. Whereas, I'm waking up at 5 a.m. for workouts and then, study hall, learning a new offense. And then, obviously, my social life. And
Yeah.
it was, a big adjustment for me. And I really was just like, yeah, business undecided. That sounds, I could use that for whatever, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and then, I could have done much better in school, and my parents were not happy about that. But I decided after 2 years I was playing at Clarion, best I transferred to Wilkes. I was going to play football there, and then I realized, I talked to the head coach, and he was going to bring me in. I just said, let me just focus on school here. So, it was a big, growing up moment for me, focus on my grades. And, after communications, I really, I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do, but I knew that could help me in, various different fields.
Yeah.
And so I figured, let's get the degree and go from there. But, life went in a really different path. Like, although communications is somewhat valuable to acting. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Geez, you could have been doing what I do, Mike.
yeah, I mean, I did. I wrote at the paper at it was like one of the classes at work,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I covered like tennis and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh,
it was
hell
fun.
yes.
It was fun.
Yes. But you kind of hit on something there. Like, not that, no offense to myself, but I was never going to amount to a college athlete. It just wasn't going to happen. I would have loved to have just kind of tried out for the U and maybe have been like a 15th man or something. But like you're saying, I don't understand it. It just, my college experience, I don't understand how people play sports and, pursue an academic career. Like, I never understood it. I had to focus so much.
Hard.
Yeah, exactly. I had to focus
It's a lot
so
of
much.
time, and you gotta, a lot of kids aren't ready for the time management aspect because it's such a new thing. And, it's my first time on my own. And now,
Yeah.
I don't have someone here to kind of guide me. I'm just,
Right.
so
right.
it's like, ooh, do I go to this party or do I
Right.
study for this exam tomorrow? I don't know. I think the party sounds.
I think the party sounds great.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So you move to Pittsburgh, get a job in medical records at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. And then, an opportunity kind of arises and you're able to seize it. You end up on an A&E show, Those Who Kill, playing a waiter, and from a past story we did maybe like 4 or 5 years ago about you said that's where it took off and you really wanted to pursue an acting career. Tell me about that experience and how that made you kind of want to go full force into acting.
Yeah. So that was my first job out of school. It was, so another quarterback who came in with me, we were kind of like rivals at Clarion, not rivals, but it was like we were fighting for the same spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we became best friends. My buddy Shane Brennan, shout out to Shane, and his mom offered me a job at UPMC Medical Center. And so it was my first job working in an office. And, it was Colleen and Linda. I have to mention them because they were the ones who kind of pushed me towards this. And they, I believed in me for something I had no idea I really wanted to do. And there was a casting call for that show, Those Who Kill. And they were looking for extras. And, they kind of were like, yeah, you should do it. you're so handsome and you're so funny. Yeah, okay. I'm like, all right, yeah. So they, we just take a picture of me against the white, like a white wall in the office, and they send it in, and they cast me as it, and it's you don't have to audition or anything like that. And so I got to go and be a waiter. It was like one of the featured extras, which was cool. So it was, three of us and then a bunch of people at a party. And then Chloe Sevigny was on that show. If you remember her from American Psycho, she played the receptionist for Christian Bale.
Yep.
And she's been in a lot of stuff. She's a fantastic actress. But so they were shooting the scene. I'm walking around with a tray of like champagne flutes, just past the camera, nothing crazy. But like the second take, I dropped all of them and they smashed.
Oh no.
and they had to stop the take, and I'm like mortified.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'll never be back on set again. But it was fine. I think it must happen all the time. But just to be there and to see, that was my first time on a set and seeing, a Hollywood production and seeing these people act and how the sausage is made, so to speak. And it just changed my life. And after that day, I kind of just decided to go all in and pursue that. So just being there that day, it was like, yeah, this is what I want to do.
Absolutely. And to just kind of backtrack a little bit, I kind of, obviously when I realized I wasn't going to the NBA, I've wanted to become a sports journalist, stay in sports. And I also really developed like a love of movies, mostly it was around 2007, 2008, which was kind of like a perfect time of like, here comes the Dark Knight and Iron Man.
Yeah. Wow.
Like what a like massive, what it's done for film and, the genre as a whole that's still going. But so I'm kind of curious, what was there a spark in film with you either as a kid or, when you were in college, did you think about acting at all and any of that stuff? Like what was kind of the spark for you in film?
So I remember my parents took me to see Jurassic Park at the theater in, it wasn't there, not the Dixon City one, but the Viewmont Mall had a theater there. It's obviously not there. I think they told me a while ago.
Yeah.
But it was like the premiere of Jurassic Park, and it was such a big deal. And people were like lining up outside, and there were news crews. And I remember coming out. That movie changed my life. Seeing that, it was like four or five. I think four, and maybe five. But and they interviewed me. I think it was like WNEP or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was like, I think I spoke with someone over there about trying to find the footage. I don't know. It's so long ago, but they interviewed me as a kid, and I'm just like, wow, talking about the Tyrannosaur, but that was just such a spectacle to see at the time.
Yep.
And it was just ever since then. And my parents were always, they always watched movies with me. And my mom actually, she always kind of wanted me to get into acting, because they would do school plays, and she always kind of saw that I was, personable, funny, always trying to make people laugh, and she saw that maybe I'd be good at it, and she tried to offer me $100 to do the school play. I think it was Pippin or something like that.
Oh wow!
And I was like, no, Mom, I'm not doing that. Because at the time, all my time and resources were into sports. That was my goal, was to play in school, and theater is much harder than what I do. I feel like theater acting is like next level tough.
Oh yeah.
And my little sister Nina actually was a fantastic actress, way better than me. And she did the school play. She was Donkey in the Shrek, and she was fantastic. I remember going back. She's 12 years younger than me, so I went back to see her do the play, and I was like, wow, this kid is good. So. I mean, she's in medical school now, but she went a different path. But I always told her, "You're a better actress than me."
Hey, there's always time, You can
Yeah, but I've always been into movies, and that's always had a special place. And we always used to go to there was like the cheap theater. I don't know if you remember this. It was up by Kmart in Dixon, and it was like the cheaper one. No one was ever really there.
Yep.
And we would always go up there, me and my parents, and I just have so many fond memories of seeing movies there. So that was always a really important part of my life.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing oddly Batman and Robin there. Just a terrible, terrible movie. But
No, but at the time, I feel like I loved it
oh, it was big.
as a kid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like
Absolutely.
I had all the toys. Like it was like
Yep.
yeah. I mean, but obviously now, you look at it, it was probably more so made for us as
Right.
kids at the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, you, you know, was it difficult at like that point? I don't know when people start going into acting classes and stuff, what ages, like, did you feel like behind it all? Like, how difficult was it to jump into acting like at that point in your life?
It was tough, and it was something I definitely thought about. Because you're coming up against people in auditions. A lot of them, they look just like you, but they went to Juilliard, or
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Carnegie Mellon, or they
Yep.
studied drama and theater. So you're like, oh well, I'm a little behind the eight ball here, but
Yeah.
I try not to look at it like that because everybody's career path is different, especially in the entertainment industry. There's no really right or wrong way to go about it. It's such
Right.
a unique thing that there's so many people who have been discovered through, thousands of different ways. But yeah, it was more so like, I can only do what I can do right now. I obviously felt like, I started a little late as opposed to, a lot of A-list actors, they've been doing this since they were kids. You wouldn't
Right.
even know it. You look back and you see, oh, that he was in that as a kid. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I was just, obviously I knew the disadvantage, but at the same time, my path is different than anybody else's. So I just going into the acting class, that was intimidating too because I'd never done that. And that's
Right.
you got to be vulnerable and kind of put your pride aside because you got to be in front of a room of people doing stupid stuff like that you're not comfortable with.
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah.
like, oh, do this scene, and you're like, oh, okay, I've never done that, but it was and it helps you kind of come out of your shell and in that way. Not that I was ever a shy person, but
No.
it's I think a lot of people struggle with that kind of thing. It's like public speaking is a lot of people's biggest fear, right? So
Right.
there's an aspect to it that's like, am I gonna look stupid and you just kind of got to go for it. And yeah, it definitely, but at first it was definitely tough. It was definitely an adjustment, but
No, certainly. Do you, just out of curiosity, do you remember any specific, workshop or class where that was memorable or maybe embarrassing for you?
I did like when my first classes in Pittsburgh, it was like it was an improv part of it. So, they just give you I don't remember the exact specifics, but it was it was a really silly scenario. And I just remember thinking, it was like the second class I ever took and just thinking, I look like such an idiot. And, it's like, I'm used to, sports and stuff. And like, I'm like, it's just so vulnerable. And,
Right.
but yeah, it wasn't anything specific, but it was definitely just like, wow, I look like a complete imbecile.
But again,
But
we
it
had,
helped.
yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, and we had spoken about it earlier, what sports kind of taught you and perseverance and, not quitting and, you know, being willing to just, get up, put yourself out there and, where it's obviously led you. So kind of, I had the opportunity, or at least I tried for about 5 minutes to be an extra on a film once.
Oh, what was it?
Blue Valentine. I don't know if you remember. It's a Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams movie. I think it was 2011 or 2012.
Oh, wow.
It was shot here. It was shot in Scranton. And
Really?
yeah, we were at the U, and Gosling and Michelle Williams were there, and they were calling for extras, and I was in this just like it was like everyone at the school was just standing to be an extra, and I stood there for about 5 minutes, and I'm just like, screw this, I got to get to class. It was just like,
see, you gave up.
Exactly. See, what could I have been?
What could have been? Could have been starring next to Gosling in the next film.
Exactly. But yeah, it's actually it's a really good film. Pretty cool to watch, seeing all the stuff in the area.
Yeah,
It's really depressing though. So you got to be in the mood to
like a
watch
good
it.
depressing flick every once in a while.
Exactly. But obviously speaking to you end up being an extra on some major Hollywood films. As I mentioned, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice in 2016, and Southpaw 2015 with Jake Gyllenhaal and Forrest Whitaker, Rachel McAdams. I don't know what obviously I don't know what that experience is like, but it's cool. Maybe it doesn't seem much to you. I don't know, but going to your IMDb page and seeing like these two major movies, I think is such a cool thing. What was kind of your experience with being an extra on those films?
Yeah, that was, from Those Who Kill to that, it was like, I was in awe of, just seeing these, truly top tier people at their craft just kind of go to work. And,
Right.
I was doing as much extra work as I could when I first started because, I didn't go to theater school or film school or anything like that. So I was just learning from watching the best of the best do what they do. And that was the best way to do it. Just get there. And yeah, so I drove all the way to Detroit from Pittsburgh and
Oh,
put
wow.
myself in a hotel just to I'm a big fan of DC and Batman,
Yeah.
and Superman, all that stuff. And obviously Zack Snyder and 300, as I put in my interview for Athlete of the Week. But yeah, it's just getting to go there. So my scene was, I was one of the featured people next to Amy Adams when there was an explosion at the Capitol.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
And I'm like one of the protesters, I have a sign and all that stuff. Like, everyone's protesting Superman. And so I got to, I was right next to Amy Adams and I got to see, Henry Cavill in his Superman outfit. It's just like, that's Superman right there. He looked like him too. It was wild.
I was gonna say,
And
I would be in awe of that.
I was fanning out.
Yeah.
And, I didn't make a lot of money on it. It was just so,
Sure, right.
Just to be there and kind of learn and see how they do these big budget films and just to fan out a little bit too, but also learn, see them do what they do. And, I spoke to Zack Snyder briefly. He was like the nicest guy.
Amazing.
And I spoke to Amy Adams for like 10 minutes in between takes. It's like, she told me about her journey and, it's funny enough, I still haven't worked with her out here yet, but I told her this was, 2016. So they shot that in 2015, I think.
Right.
So,
right.
10 years ago, I told her I'm gonna move to LA one day. I'm gonna see you out there. And she's like, let me know when you do.
That's awesome. That is
so I'm
awesome.
gonna tell her that hopefully if we ever work together. But yeah, that and then in Southpaw, I was in the hospital next to Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yep.
And I didn't get to talk to him because he was like really in the zone.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I spoke with Rachel McAdams after, who was watching the take. Like he had a really intense scene where he was, coming. I think there was a car crash in the film.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, sorry.
Yeah.
And
it's 10 years ago. I think we're good.
Yeah, he just like wakes up out of it and screaming, and to see like the raw, emotion, like as I'm in the hospital bed just laying there, like passed out, pretending to be passed out. But yeah, it was just, just seeing them and that kind of just, propelled me forward even further, like to pursue the acting thing and, just go all in on it,
That's amazing. I was curious, like if you actually would get time to talk with like some of those people.
You're usually not supposed to, but they when you're an extra, But,
you made your way.
They were just, they were so nice and they made the time to like make everyone feel like you were part of it too.
That's awesome.
Because extras are important, and now that I'm in this point in my career, like when I'm a principal actor and I have extras, like I always make the time to talk to everybody, and
that's awesome
because I was there. I was like, oh wow, like I'm part of the film, and they're important parts of it. So
that is awesome. So you at this time you're also doing some independent films, and you end up guest starring on investigation discovery show Who Killed Jane Doe in 2018. And then you moved to LA. Again, that's like, that's a big change. That's again taking a leap and absolutely chasing your dream and believing in yourself. What was that time like for you to make that decision to move out to LA?
Yeah, it was tough. It was obviously I'd never even, I visited once for a week, but
Yeah.
I've never really lived outside of Pennsylvania before. So, but yeah, the show Who Killed Jane Doe, that was like my first real speaking role on TV where I was kind of, the main guy.
Yeah.
And that was just incredible. I played, Todd Matthews. He was a real guy who, was like an amateur detective who kind of identified unidentified missing people.
Mhm.
And he was like really prominent in that field. So I actually reached out to him to prepare for my character. Like I really went full method with it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's my first role. I gotta bring
Yeah.
it. And I have like 6 lines on the show, but and I have like a strong Kentucky accent and a thick mustache.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so Todd, shout out to Tom Matthews too. He was a cool guy, and like
Yeah.
I still stay in touch with him to this day. But yeah, so that was really cool, and to see myself on TV, it was kind of a mind-boggling thing, and in like a TV show, like
Yep.
crazy.
Absolutely.
And then so yeah, the move to LA was tough. It was a big leap. Me and my girlfriend, now wife, we just packed our cars and what we could fit. We moved to this couple owned a house, and we just lived in their extra bedroom, and it was like shared living spaces, and we slept on an air mattress for a while, while we kind of got our feet under us, and it was, just that we just wanted to be here, and I felt like, if I'm gonna make it happen, I might as well do it now.
Yep.
So just made the leap, still here, and still kicking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny because obviously you ended up in tons of commercials. What I thought was it was crazy. I swear, one day I'm just watching whatever. I don't know what I'm watching. And then all of a sudden, like, it was seriously like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme of like where he's pointing at the TV. I'm looking, I'm just like, is that Mike Dargatis? It was just like, it was crazy. Obviously the commercials that were big, at least that I saw, Walmart, the Sling one was on like a lot.
Yeah, for the Olympics, right?
Yeah. And whatever. I think it was also Walmart, the dad of the year. It was.
I'm always the dad.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, it was just really cool to just randomly see you on my TV and like all these commercials. What is shooting commercials like? What's that experience like?
Yeah, it's slightly different than like TV film projects. It's more of like a corporate kind of, the client's usually there like telling you what they want and how you want the shot, how you want the product to look. You got to look happy, you got to be smiling. We improv a lot on set because a lot of times there's not lines unless it's more times than not it's like, well, here's the product,
right?
That's the focus obviously. But yeah, I love commercials too. They're fun in a different way.
Yeah.
I mean, like I always say, this is just like any day on set is a good day.
Yeah.
It's just the best job. And it's just, I've met so many great people on set and great directors who also have worked on, big films, and to see actors and actresses I've worked with and they go on to big things. And it's really cool. I love doing them, and I'll do them forever until, I know a lot of actors kind of shy away from them as they, get further in their career. But hey, you want to put me in a commercial, I'll do it. You tell me when. Absolutely.
Yeah. Keep doing that. So I see you randomly, in between.
Well, I'm trying to, my buddy Joey Grasso at Northeast Title and Tag, Northeast PA Business. I'm going to give him a little plug here. But I told him I'll do his commercial whenever I'm home. So
nice. Perfect. I love it. So probably one of the highlights of your career, you work on the film that came out in 2022, Gasoline Alley, alongside Bruce Willis, Luke Wilson, Devon Sawa. That's just great. I saw your, obviously I've seen your scene, just really cool. Probably the best you felt to be, fake beat up in a movie.
Oh yeah.
But, that's just such a cool project to be on. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, that was like my first real moment where it was kind of like, there's pressure on you here to perform and to prove that you belong. It was like, okay, there's Bruce Willis is the star of this film, who's obviously a huge legend.
Yep.
And we shot in Atlanta, and it was like, the crew compared to a film like this, as opposed to, independent or a small film, there's a lot of people counting on you to get it right. And we shot at like 3 a.m. at a gas station in rural Georgia. And it was just like, a pretty intense scene. And I'm there on set watching the prior scene, and Devin Sawa, who's an amazing actor.
Yep.
He was like in a really intense scene, like fired up. I'm like, oh my God, this is like intimidating. I'm about to go act alongside, a guy who's been in some of the huge, he's one of the biggest stars in the world at one point.
Yeah.
And an awesome guy, Devin. And I still stay in contact with him to this day. He's like an awesome guy. He's had some good success lately too, which is great.
Yep.
But yeah, it was just like, you gotta bring your A game, and you gotta prove that you belong, and I did my own stunts on that. So like he pulls me over the counter, and they asked if I wanted to, stunt. I was like, no, I'm going to do it. Let me do it. Because I want to prove that I'm the guy. So do what you got to do. Throw me around. So like they throw me over the counter. He punches me in the face. He actually pummels me pretty good. But so the scene ended up getting cut, which was really unfortunate. But the director shared it, and I found out later that I think that they probably didn't leave it in because it was the opening of the film.
Oh, okay.
And, it was more so like, Devin is just pummeling my face, like beating me up. And it was like the opening, and he's supposed to be the hero. So I think they kind of, wanted it to him to be more likable. But it was just to see my name on the credits with those people, it's just a dream come true. And obviously I've grown up watching all their movies, and it was just, a great experience. And that kind of prepared me for everything else in my career. Whereas, I do belong, I got held my own. And so I was like, yeah, I could do this for sure.
Absolutely. You actually, I think this came out before Gasoline Alley, but you end up in The Handler, playing a villain role. And we'll get to the fact that you end up playing a lot of villains, but I feel like, and you could tell me if I'm wrong, you've been in, being in that project, it seems like has kind of helped you along the way. You've been in other projects, run by Matteo Rossi, like Murder Syndicate, The Charisma Killers. You end up with Chris Levine, right? That's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. You end up with him again. I guess, what's it been like, movies like The Handler and everything else? What's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, I've built really good friendships with Michael and Chris, and they're, Chris is a fantastic actor and director.
Yeah.
And Michael's obviously, he makes, really good films, and he doesn't have the big budgets like a lot of films have.
Right.
And the time schedules and all that stuff. So he really has to make movie magic with a lot less. And, I've seen that process, and, he's really good at that. And working with him is, he gives you kind of freedom to, ad lib a little bit, and how I would feel the scene, how I see it.
Yeah.
Would I do it a little differently? He's like, just go for it. He's very open and lets you kind of go with it, and gives you that freedom to, which I really appreciate in a director. They kind of let you kind of feel the scene and feel the other actors in it, and kind of just do what feels natural to your character. And that's always great working with him. And hopefully I can, continue to work with him on more projects. I've worked with him, I think, like 4 times now.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's just always a good time, and it's always a great experience working with both of those guys.
Absolutely. I actually watched The Handler in preparation for this for this podcast. I really like how it just, I appreciate you following my reviews and everything. So you've probably seen, like, I love simplicity, and that movie, it jumps you right into it, and you're there, and it's just, that's what I appreciated about it. And I love seeing you in a villain role there. I think I've seen it in comments of, clips that you've shared. Obviously we talked about the one from Gasoline Alley. Unless you've changed over the years, you've always been like a super nice guy. So what is it like? Kind of, it's probably a blast going into, playing against your type and going into these roles. But what's it kind of like playing a person that you don't really, you're not like that in real life.
And it's funny that I've kind of, these are the roles I book in terms of like TV film stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas commercially, I'm always, the smiling dad is always like super happy.
Yep.
And then, and in Gasoline Alley too, I was a bad guy who
Right.
just killed the shop owner and
Yep.
was standing in his place and ready to kill, Devin. But it was, I think after that movie came out and they kind of, once that was on my reel, I think a lot of casting directors obviously see, okay, he could play the bad guy. And, it's just always fun kind of jumping into that world and kind of getting to be not like yourself in terms of I'm not a murderous, douchebag. But it's just, it makes you feel like you're really just stepping out into another person's kind of headspace and really just getting able to play make-believe, basically, like you're a kid.
Yep.
And it's really fun kind of getting to do that. I mean, obviously I would love to play a good guy too.
Right. Right. And it's not to say you haven't, like you said, there's been, you've done it both, but it's both ways, but you're pretty good at the villain thing.
Yeah, I'm noticing this. And I don't know if that says something about me. Maybe I need to look into, but it's a lot of fun. And, getting to, and then afterwards, I'm always like, I talk to the crew. I always make it a point to, talk to everybody and thank them. And they're always like, wow, you're like totally a different guy. Than, because a lot of them, their first, like a lot of the crew and camera people and extras, they see me and it's like come out and I'm a dick.
Yeah.
And then like after it's like, oh wow, yeah, you're like not like that guy.
Right. Exactly.
Which is always fun. That's always like kind of an indicator for me, like if I did a good job or not. So
right.
It's fun. And hopefully I've gotten close to playing some good roles on shows that are pretty big and some projects that have come out since. And a lot of auditions I get are for bad guys. Like, I was really close to getting Tulsa King, and I would have been, alongside Sylvester Stallone and playing a bad guy.
Wow.
And, so yeah, I think that's kind of like the path I'm going right now. I'm not gonna, if that's what they want me for, I'm not gonna turn it down.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not at the level that I can yet, where I'm going to say, oh, I don't want that.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not Daniel Day-Lewis yet.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's always fun and hopefully there'll be more in the future. I'm waiting to hear back on some things. So, fingers crossed. And I mean, hopefully I'm playing a bad guy more and more,
Absolutely. When we had talked back in 2023, you got your first Primetime Network TV co-star role in Magnum PI. Talk a little bit about that experience for you.
Yeah, so I got to go to Hawaii and never been to Hawaii. So beautiful place.
Yep.
Just to be a part of such an iconic show and to be the guy for the scene I was in.
Yeah. Yep.
Like I said before, just to kind of, be the guy as opposed to where I started. I was an extra and just watching and to go from that to the scene was at a club and there was like 50 or 60 extras there all watching me, do my work.
Yeah.
And, so it was kind of a full circle thing. And, for them to, and after, I talked to everybody and they're just asking, oh, how'd you get into this? And oh, wow. It's really cool to kind of see where I started to where I am now and kind of give them the same advice. I started off doing what you were doing. I just wanted to learn and see how movie magic is made. But yeah, that was, get my own trailer. And so that was really cool. It was like, a pinch me moment. And, director Benny Boom, who's like a really famous, he does a lot of music videos for like some of the biggest people. And he's done some really big TV shows, but he's from Philadelphia. So it was like, cool that chatting with him and, oh yeah, I'm from Scranton. He's like, oh, okay, yeah. So it was, getting to have that Pennsylvania connection in Hawaii was interesting.
Yeah, seriously, that's awesome.
But yeah, the scene was just, I was a bad guy again, and
a little cool. Sleazy, yeah,
yeah. But and then we shoot the exterior scene, and there's like tourists walking around Hawaii watching it. So it was like, there was like people filming it. It was a really cool kind of, like I said, pinch me moment where, oh wow, I'm like, I've kind of made it in terms of, not many people can say they've done, a co-star role on TV. So it was that kind of, motivated me a little more to keep going. Whereas, it's hard. It's a hard industry. You hear a lot of no's.
Yeah.
As you're auditioning, there's only one part and
Right.
there's thousands of people going out for one role.
Yeah.
So but to do that, was, a really important step in my career and one I'll always kind of be grateful for.
Absolutely. You're able to get that in before the actors writer strikes, which was obviously really, really, really important. I supported the strikes. I mean, absolutely. But tell me about that. What was it like for you during the strike? And, what was it like kind of coming out of that?
Yeah, that was, the timing was, it couldn't have been any worse.
Of course.
Because I got my SAG card.
Oh, yeah.
The day the strike was announced.
Oh, really? Oh, my God.
Yeah. So, I'm riding the momentum from Magnum PI, seeing good auditions come in for really, Ryan Murphy and then all these people. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is like the next step ready to take off.
Absolutely.
And then obviously the strikes happened and, obviously a good thing for us in terms of, our rights and stuff like that. But it was tough for people like me who, it's you're trying to make your way in the industry and it's hard to,
right.
Without work,
yep.
You gotta keep it going. And, that was a tough time and really glad that we got through that. But one thing about it was really cool to kind of get out there and support each other and at the picket line. And yeah, it's actually so funny. Like you're picketing around, Netflix or Disney.
Yeah.
And you're just walking past like A-list actors who are just, sitting there with, like Jane Fonda's walking next to him, like, what is happening?
Yeah.
It's like, but it's also a cool moment to see, I'm in the same guild as these amazing people who, inspired me my whole life. So that was a cool thing. And I'm glad that's over with and we're moving forward. And I think the industry is coming back in a good way. Obviously after there was a big ramp up period, it was slow and, a lot of people out of jobs, from crew to actors to,
right.
So, but I think, and I'm hopeful, I think we just passed a new tax credit here in California that's going to increase, spending in terms of, incentive to film here. So hopefully we can keep that going and yeah, hopefully the projects keep flowing in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Another movie that came out in 2024. I also watched this one, Saint Nick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I gotta be honest with you. I loved it.
Yeah.
I was laughing throughout.
Shout out to Chris.
I was gonna say Chris was excellent. It was interesting to see. Obviously, like I said, I watched The Handler, and to watch this, it's just two completely different roles. And he's excellent. It's funny. I saw on social media. I think it was last year where they shared your photo. I think on Instagram when they said it's Tremor's birthday, who's your character. Thought that was funny. It was cool to see. It was cool to see Chris Levine comment on it and everything. But yeah, I thought I thought your scene was great. It was funny. I really enjoyed that movie from top to bottom. And what was that like for you? The Christmas movie business, I feel like is a good business. So like, what was that like for you at entering a Christmas movie?
That was awesome. I loved it. I'm a big, obviously Christmas is the best.
Yep.
But just being a part of it was so fun. And I've done a lot of Christmas commercials, like in terms of, like the Walmart one was Christmas, and I've done a few other ones. But it's just, there's something about just being surrounded by that environment with the lights, and it's so fun. And the movie came out great. Chris did a great job, directing and starring in that.
Yeah.
And it was just a lot of fun. I got to not be a bad guy, which was great.
It's true.
I got to be, it was more comedy, and which I love to do as well. So yeah, and I've actually, I'm waiting to hear back on some things, but hopefully I would love to do, like a Christmas rom-com type movie in the future. So I'm waiting to hear on a few. I auditioned for one that I was really excited about. So a lot of projects are and holding, and you got to get funds, and you got to get the studio approval. So it's a lot of waiting game, but
Sure.
that's definitely a career goal of mine, is to do like a Hallmark or a a
Yes.
Lifetime. Yeah, that's on the list for
Yep.
sure.
Absolutely.
And I've told my agent that, so I'm pushing for it.
Good. I was gonna say, get in there, man. That's a great, obviously Hallmark Christmas season is a big thing. So that'd be great to see
Yeah.
you. It'd be great to see you at a Hallmark the Christmas movie at some
That's the
point.
plan. I hope so. My grandma and my mom, and everyone's always like, "Oh, you should do it." Yeah,
Yeah.
tell the studio.
I was gonna say, I'm trying, like, so yeah. I guess just to cap it off here, like you said, you're waiting on, you're waiting on things, what's that? Geez, what is that kind of like? I imagine it's just like a constant grind of, trying to, auditioning and looking for projects and stuff. Just, what is that like? I feel like that would give me anxiety.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
It's so since COVID, a lot of our auditions are self-taped, so we record ourselves. And it used to be more so in person. You go to a room, everybody looks like you. You go in the audition room, and you're sitting in front of the casting directors, and you have a script, and you do it, and you go home, and you're like, oh, okay, But here it's you kind of, now everything's really filmed from home. So
Yeah.
some people like it, some people don't. But it can be, it could be a grind, like you said. You don't get most of them, so it's like success is measured in the few. Like a sports analogy, it's like baseball, but even more extreme. So
Yeah.
if you could book a couple out of 100, you're doing well.
Right.
So it's a lot of no's, or you don't even hear anything back. It's or like sometimes you think you did really well and you just don't do anything. And then I see, a big like name actor who's in the role. Like I see it on TV. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I was never gonna get that.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's you got to look at it like you're working on your craft, and it's a opportunity to act. And
Yeah.
it's not really, you're not on set, but you're still kind of working that acting muscle, and so you just got to stay positive with it. But yeah, it's a grind, but it's really cool now to where I am in my career, as opposed to 10 years ago, where you get auditions for shows that you love and films that you're a fan of, and it's like, oh my, this is incredible, this would change my life. So it's tough, but at the same time, I look at it like I'm one yes away from everything changing, and
Right.
it's just, you just got to stay, like I said before, you just got to keep going when it gets tough, and persevere, and be ready when that opportunity comes, because when it does, you got to be ready and you got to deliver. And yeah, so I mean, it's tough, but if it was easy, I guess everybody would do it.
Exactly. You're up for the challenge, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, well, hey man, it's been really awesome talking to you. Thanks for freeing up, this much time and helping me with preparation and everything for it. And ultimately, it was really good just catching up with you. Where could people kind of follow you and everything, and see for your next step in your career?
Yeah, it's I mean, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, or X as it's called.
Yep.
Facebook. I don't have a TikTok. I refuse.
Same.
My agent always tells me to kind of hop on that, because that's another big thing that the industry is changing towards, is social media following. So, I probably could do a better job at that, but as it's part of their business now. But yeah, you can follow me on there at Mike Dgot, Mike DGOT. And yeah, I'd like to try to post career stuff on there. And but likewise, it was a great chat with you, man. This was fun. Anytime we want to talk movies, you want to talk sports, I'm for it, buddy.
I was gonna say, let's definitely do it again. I'll be excited what comes next for you, my friend.
Thank you. I'm trying to bring more, TV film stuff to the area. So hopefully, one of my goals is to have a premiere up in Montage, raise some money, and whenever a project, I would love to do that and have everybody there, and kind of have a big event there. So that's the goal. So I'm putting it out there and hoping we can make that a reality.
That would be amazing. When that happens, my friend, I'm there, obviously. I'm there.
Oh yeah.
I'm all over it. I'm all over it. Well, hey man, again, thanks so much for taking the time, and I'm sure we'll be in touch, my friend. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
buddy. I'm looking forward to it, man. And thank you for having me.